Formalism is a literary theory and approach to the analysis of literature that focuses on the formal aspects of a text, such as its structure, language, and style, rather than its content or historical context. Formalism emerged in the early 20th century as a reaction against the prevailing literary criticism that often considered the socio-political and historical contexts of literary works. Key features of formalism in literature include autonomy of the text. Formalists argue for the autonomy of the literary text, suggesting that a work of literature should be analyzed and appreciated as a self-contained entity, independent of its author's biography, historical context, or societal influences. Close reading. Formalist analysis involves close reading of the text, examining its linguistic and structural elements, such as imagery, metaphor, symbolism, rhyme, rhythm, plot structure, and narrative techniques. Close reading allows critics to understand how these elements contribute to the overall meaning of the work. Literary devices. Formalists focus on literary devices and techniques employed by authors to create meaning. This includes examining how the arrangement of words, the choice of diction, and the use of literary devices contribute to the aesthetic experience of the text. Defamiliarization. Formalists often emphasize the concept of defamiliarization, where literature presents familiar things in an unfamiliar or unexpected way, challenging readers to see the world anew and fostering a heightened awareness of language. Objective analysis. Formalist criticism tends to be more objective and scientific in its approach, seeking to identify recurring patterns, structures, and devices across different literary works. This analytical approach avoids subjective interpretations based on the author's intentions or external factors. Focus on literature's inherent value. Formalists assert that the value of a literary work lies within its inherent qualities and aesthetic appeal rather than its extrinsic factors, such as the author's intentions or the societal context in which it was produced. Prominent formalist critics include Victor Shklovsky, Roman Jakobson, and Cleanth Brooks. While formalism fell out of favor as the dominant literary theory in the mid-20th century, elements of formalist analysis continue to influence literary criticism today, and it remains an important approach for understanding the craft and artistry of literature. User. Formalism in literature. ChatGPT. Formalism is a literary theory and approach to the analysis of literature that focuses on the formal aspects of a text, such as its structure, language, and style, rather than its content or historical context. Formalism emerged in the early 20th century as a reaction against the prevailing literary criticism that often considered the socio-political and historical contexts of literary works. Key features of formalism in literature include autonomy of the text. Formalists argue for the autonomy of the literary text, suggesting that a work of literature should be analyzed and appreciated as a self-contained entity, independent of its author's biography, historical context, or societal influences. Close reading. Formalist analysis involves close reading of the text, examining its linguistic and structural elements, such as imagery, metaphor, symbolism, rhyme, rhythm, plot structure, and narrative techniques. Close reading allows critics to understand how these elements contribute to the overall meaning of the work. Literary devices. Formalists focus on literary devices and techniques employed by authors to create meaning. This includes examining how the arrangement of words, the choice of diction, and the use of literary devices contribute to the aesthetic experience of the text. Defamiliarization. Formalists often emphasize the concept of defamiliarization, where literature presents familiar things in an unfamiliar or unexpected way, challenging readers to see the world anew and fostering a heightened awareness of language. Objective analysis. Formalist criticism tends to be more objective and scientific in its approach, seeking to identify recurring patterns, structures, and devices across different literary works. This analytical approach avoids subjective interpretations based on the author's intentions or external factors. Focus on literature's inherent value. Formalists assert that the value of a literary work lies within its inherent qualities and aesthetic appeal rather than its extrinsic factors, such as the author's intentions or the societal context in which it was produced. Prominent formalist critics include Victor Shklovsky, Roman Jakobson, and Cleanth Brooks. While formalism fell out of favor as the dominant literary theory in the mid-20th century, elements of formalist analysis continue to influence literary criticism today, and it remains an important approach for understanding the craft and artistry of literature. User. Main arguments with example. ChatGPT. Certainly. Let's delve into some main arguments of formalism in literature, along with examples. Autonomy of the text. Argument. A literary work should be studied independently of the author's intentions, historical context, or societal influences. Example. Consider The Road Not Taken, by Robert Frost. Instead of interpreting it solely through Frost's life or historical context, a formalist analysis might focus on the structure, rhyme scheme, and language to explore how the poem presents choices and individual agency. Close reading. Argument. In-depth analysis of a text's language and structure is crucial for understanding its meaning. Example. Analyzing the opening scene of Shakespeare's Hamlet, a formalist approach might explore the use of iambic pentameter, the strategic placement of soliloquies, and the symbolism in the ghost's appearance to unravel the play's themes of mortality and revenge. Literary devices. Argument. Literary devices contribute significantly to the aesthetic and emotional impact of a work. Example. In F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, a formalist analysis might focus on the recurring motif of the green light, examining its symbolic significance and how its use throughout the novel contributes to the overall themes of longing and the American dream. Defamiliarization. Argument. Literature should challenge readers' perceptions by presenting familiar elements in unfamiliar ways. Example. In Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, the magical realism defamiliarizes the familiar setting of a small town, making the extraordinary events and characters blend seamlessly with the everyday, prompting readers to reconsider their understanding of reality. Objective analysis. Argument. Literary analysis should be objective and systematic, identifying recurring patterns and structures. Example. A formalist critique of T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock might focus on the repeated use of refrains, the fragmentation of the narrative, and the allusions to other literary works to reveal how Eliot creates a modernist exploration of self-consciousness and alienation. Focus on inherent value. Argument. The value of a literary work lies within its intrinsic qualities, independent of external factors. Example. A formalist reading of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven could emphasize the poem's rhythmic and melodic qualities, its use of symbolism, and the emotional impact created by its linguistic choices, highlighting how these elements contribute to the poem's enduring appeal. These examples illustrate how formalist arguments can be applied to diverse literary works, emphasizing the importance of examining the internal features of texts to uncover their meaning and aesthetic qualities. Origin. Formalism is a literary theory emerged in the early 20th century, with its roots in Russian formalism. Russian formalism was a school of thought that developed in Russia between the 1910s and the 1930s. Scholars such as Viktor Shklovsky, Roman Jakobson, and Boris Eichenbaum played key roles in the development of formalist ideas. Russian formalists focused on the study of the form and structure of literary texts, emphasizing the autonomy of the text and the significance of literary devices. History. Russian formalism 1910s–1930s. Russian formalism laid the groundwork for formalist ideas. Scholars like Shklovsky and Jakobson explored the concept of defamiliarization and the importance of analyzing the linguistic and structural aspects of literature independently of external factors. Prague School 1920s–1930s. The formalist approach spread beyond Russia, influencing scholars associated with the Prague linguistic circle, such as Roman Jakobson. This phase of formalism extended its focus to include the study of language and linguistics in addition to literature. New criticism 1930s–1950s. Formalist ideas found their way to the West, particularly through the new critics in the United States. Figures like Cleanth Brooks, Robert Penn Warren, and W.K. Wimsatt adopted a formalist approach, emphasizing close reading and the analysis of literary devices. New criticism became a dominant force in American literary criticism during the mid-20th century. Evolution. Structuralism 1950s–1960s. Formalist ideas influenced the development of structuralism, a broader intellectual movement that extended formalist principles to other fields like anthropology, linguistics, and semiotics. Structuralist, including Roland Barthes and Claude Lévi-Strauss, applied structuralist principles to literature, examining underlying structures and patterns. Post-structuralism 1960s–1970s. Post-structuralism emerged as a response to structuralism, challenging the idea of fixed structures and embracing a more fluid and subjective understanding of meaning. Scholars like Jacques Derrida questioned the stability of language and emphasized the role of interpretation. Postmodernism, 1960s. Present postmodernism, with its skepticism toward grand narratives and emphasis on intertextuality, has also been influenced by formalist ideas. Postmodernist writers often play with literary conventions and engage in self-reflexive storytelling. Continued influence. Contemporary. While formalism is a distinct school of thought may not be as dominant today, its principles continue to influence literary criticism. Many critics combine formalist analysis with other approaches, recognizing the importance of both internal and external factors in understanding literature. In summary, formalism originated in Russian formalism, evolved through various phases, and left a lasting impact on literary criticism, contributing to the development of structuralism and influencing subsequent movements like post-structuralism and postmodernism. Elements of formalist analysis are still present in contemporary literary criticism. Significance. Focus on textual elements. Formalism shifted the focus of literary analysis from external factors such as authorial intent and historical context to the internal elements of a text. This emphasis on the form, structure, and language of literary works brought a new level of precision and rigor to literary criticism. Autonomy of the text. Formalism emphasized the autonomy of the literary work, asserting that a text should be studied in isolation, free from the influence of the author's life or societal context. This perspective challenged earlier approaches that often relied heavily on biographical and historical interpretations. Close reading. Formalism popularized the practice of close reading, where critics scrutinize the details of a text, including its language, imagery, symbolism, and formal features. This method of analysis became a fundamental tool in literary criticism, fostering a deeper understanding of the complexities within a work. Relevance. Analytical tools. Formalist analytical tools, such as close reading and attention to literary devices, continue to be relevant in contemporary literary studies. Scholars and students use these tools to explore intricacies of texts across various genres and time periods. Interdisciplinary influence. Formalism's influence extended beyond literature to other disciplines, contributing to the development of structuralism and influencing fields such as linguistics, semiotics, and cultural studies. The interdisciplinary nature of formalist ideas has had a lasting impact on the study of language and culture. Legacy. New criticism. Formalism played a crucial role in the development of new criticism, a major literary movement in the mid-20th century. New critics, influenced by formalist principles, advocated for the close reading of texts and the examination of intrinsic literary qualities. Structuralism and post-structuralism. Formalism laid the groundwork for structuralist approaches, which expanded the analysis of literature to include broader structural patterns. While post-structuralism critiqued structuralist notions, it was still shaped by formalist ideas, especially in its emphasis on the instability of language and the importance of interpretation. Impact. Literary criticism and theory. Formalism significantly impacted the landscape of literary criticism and theory, challenging established approaches and encouraging a more systematic and objective analysis of literature. Educational practices. Formalist principles, such as close reading, have become integral to literature education. Many literature courses and academic programs incorporate formalist methods to help students develop analytical skills and a deeper appreciation for the nuances of literary texts. Contribution. Defamiliarization concept. The concept of defamiliarization, introduced by formalist critic Viktor Shklovsky, has been influential. It encourages readers to view the familiar in a new light, promoting a heightened awareness of language and challenging conventional perceptions. Emphasis on inherent value. Formalism's emphasis on the inherent value of a literary work has contributed to ongoing discussions about the aesthetics and artistic merit of literature. This perspective encourages scholars to appreciate literature for its internal qualities rather than relying solely on external factors. In conclusion, formalism's significance lies in its transformative impact on literary criticism, its enduring relevance in academic practices, and its contribution to the development of subsequent literary movements and interdisciplinary fields. While it may not be the dominant approach today, formalist principles continue to shape how we analyze and appreciate literature. The key features of formalism in literature include autonomy of the text. Formalism emphasizes the independence of the literary work from external factors such as the author's biography or historical context. The focus is on analyzing the text as a self-contained entity. Close reading. Formalist criticism involves meticulous and close examination of the text. Critics pay attention to details such as language, structure, literary devices, and formal elements to understand how they contribute to the overall meaning and aesthetics of the work. Literary devices. Formalism places a strong emphasis on the analysis of literary devices and techniques employed by the author. This includes examining elements like imagery, symbolism, metaphor, rhyme, rhythm, and narrative techniques. Defamiliarization. The concept of defamiliarization suggests that literature should present familiar things in an unfamiliar or surprising way. This technique challenges readers to reconsider their perceptions and enhances the artistic impact of the work. Objective analysis. Formalist criticism strives for objectivity in its analysis. Critics aim to identify recurring patterns, structures, and techniques across different literary works, avoiding subjective interpretations based on authorial intent or external influences. Focus on form and structure. The name, formalism, itself highlights the emphasis on form. Formalists focus on the structure of a literary work, including its overall organization, plot development, and stylistic features, to uncover deeper meanings. Inherent value. Formalism asserts that the value of a literary work is inherent in its form, language, and aesthetic qualities. It downplays the significance of external factors like authorial intention or socio-political context in determining the work's value. Aesthetic experience. Formalist criticism often seeks to understand the aesthetic experience created by a literary work. This involves examining how the interplay of various formal elements contributes to the emotional and intellectual impact on the reader. Rejection of extraneous information. Formalists reject the idea that extraneous information about the author's life, historical context, or societal issues should be the primary focus of literary analysis. Instead, they advocate for a concentration on the inherent features of the text itself. Scientific approach. Formalist criticism adopts a more scientific and systematic approach to literary analysis. Critics aim to apply consistent methods and principles across different texts to derive general insights into literature. These key features collectively define the formalist approach to literary analysis, emphasizing the intrinsic qualities of the text and its formal construction as the primary objects of study.